Okay, we are reading Aghora, the left hand of God. We are on chapter 9, page number 269 of the book and 137 of the PDF.
Someone once asked me if Tukaram Maharaj was really a true devotee of God, concentrating on Vithala Vishnu 24 hours a day. How could he have had two wives and fathered so many children? This is a good question which deserves a careful answer. Tukaram Maharaj was never apart from Vithala mentally, even while his physical body continued to fulfill its Rinanubandhans. His rinas with his wives included sex, and his body performed the sex act with his wives. His mind, though, was never aware of his body or of what it was doing. His mental brahmacharya was perfect, so he could father children and still remain pure.
So it is absolutely possible to be in two spaces at the same time. So we constantly tell people in the excursion and in the Gateway Voyage and the other advanced programs that you can be existing in all the focus levels simultaneously. So I can be operating in C1 consciousness, but I can be in F10, F12, F15, F21, F27 also. So if my focus of attention, the body is doing the kriya that it needs to do, but my mental association is with a higher state of consciousness, then whatever my body is doing, it is performing the act, but I am mentally somewhere else. So this is absolutely possible.
But my questioner was not completely satisfied with this explanation and posed another question. If Tukaram Maharaj was not self identifying with his body, who was? The penis can become erect only when the ego self identifies with it. If Tukaram Maharaj's ego had lost itself in Vitala, what remained to self identify with his penis? I love to answer such questions because their acuteness shows me that the people who are listening to me are thinking about what I have said. Something must have been inside Tukaram's body, self identifying. This much is clear. And one other thing is clear, it wasn't Vithala. If it had been Vithala or some other deity, or if Tukaram Maharaj had self identified with the universal soul during copulation, then the power of the deity would have been transmitted to the children. Even to some tiny extent, but they would have become spiritual giants. But they didn't. They were perfectly ordinary, mundane. There must therefore have been another personality present, one with sufficient Rinanu with Tukaram's wives to perform sex with them through the medium of Tukaram's body. Tukaram Maharaj was not even observing it, though he was elsewhere.
So any guru, any guru will always welcome questions. Okay, so he says very clearly over here, I love to answer such questions. So when questions come up, they will answer to the best of their ability. Now over here, when the conception is about to take place, if you are concentrating and focusing on a certain entity or about a certain person, the essence or the vibratory frequency of that person will get attached to the uh, fertilization process. So, what are you thinking of during the act of procreation also becomes very important. This is what he is saying over here.
Rinanu can be completed without physical sex. An ethereal being lacks a body with which to copulate. If that being desires sex, it must locate a couple engaged in the sex act, enter one of their bodies, and enjoy. Self identification must not be permitted, though, then there is no stain of karma.
So, again, karma will only become active if there is emotion attached to the act. So, over here, it is only the act. There is no emotion attached to the act. So it will not create karma.
Now, the practical application. Suppose there is a girl who loves me. Perhaps because of the social situation, she is unable to marry me and must marry someone else. I am not ethereal, but my subtle body is. When I decide that the time is right to fulfill my Rinanubandhan of sex with her, I will wait until she and her husband are in deep sexual embrace. Then, by entering his body, I will see to it that she gets full satisfaction. She gets her satisfaction from me, which breaks my Rinanubandhan with her. She is fully satiated because I know how to satiate her. Her husband would never be able to do it. But the husband knows that she is satiated and thinks he is responsible. He takes the credit for being a big stud bull, which is fine with me because by his self identification, he gets all the karma. I get my sexual enjoyment and remain untouched by karma. Everyone is happy, and I have preserved my physical celibacy.
So Robert Monroe also talks about this, that during his out of body experiences, at times you actually experience sexual contentment in that expanded state of consciousness also. And that becomes even more fulfilling than the act that we perform in the physical body. So, this is what he's talking about, going into an etheric body and performing the act, resulting in the satiation of the desires of both the parties to the best possible extent.
Swapneshwari Siddhi and Shivalata Mudra. If you want to preserve even your mental celibacy, you must have some Siddhi. Swapneshwari will do nicely. Suppose I discover a Rinanubandhan with a girl in France. I find it very inconvenient and time consuming to travel to France and romance her. So I send Swapneshwari to her in a male form. In a dream, she finds herself enjoying sex with a man whose face is always hidden from her. She is satiated because sex in a dream is always more satisfying than is physical sex. There are no inhibitions, no fear of discovery, no worry about inadequacy, no restraint to full pleasure in a dream. By satiating her in this way, my Rinanubandhan with her is broken. She never knows who has come to her and never cares to know. There is no karma and no interruption of either my mental or physical celibacy.
So it's again, the point becomes over here. Shimangla, so what happens? I can, like when Maxwell Cade was doing the experiments with the mind mirror, he found that tathastu, or the energy, would transfer only when the brainwave pattern of the giver and the receiver would get into alignment. Over here, what he's talking about now is that influencing the mind wave or the brainwave patterns of the lady when she is asleep to experience a particular experience. But you need to have a particular siddhi to be able to connect in that way and then influence the person to have a experience in the dream state.
Absolute celibacy is too far away for most people, of course. But our Vedic religion has provided for everyone, no matter what their level of achievement. If you restrict yourself to having sex with one partner, for example, if you are married and engage in sex only with your spouse, this is also brahmacharya. The brahmacharya appropriate for married people. And as long as you observe total celibacy during specific periods of penance, you too can achieve great things if you work hard. However, even a married man can practice absolute celibacy and still fulfill his sexual duty to his wife if he knows Shivalata Mudra. He must worship his wife as the cosmic Shakti, and she must worship him as Lord Shiva. Shiva is the controller, Lata the controlled. Lata literally means creeper, like the ivy which twines around a column. Because Shakti has emanated from Shiva and wishes to return to him, she is impelled to come into close proximity to him. He is the center, the linga, the fixed, unwavering nucleus. In order to become one with him, Shakti gives up her own independent characteristics and makes an absolute surrender to him. A creeper has no support of its own, which is why it must take the help of a tree or pillar. Once it has selected its support to grow on, the creeper cannot change its mind and shift to another support. It is committed. The tree is beautified by the creeper. The creeper is supported by the tree. Neither is complete without the other. When a man and woman come together for Shivalata Mudra, the woman must sit on the man's left thigh and hold his left hand. Like a creeper, she drapes herself around him, clinging tightly into a delicate vine, and he permits himself to be clung to, offering her support. There are three types of Shivalata Mudra: mundane, spiritual, and one which is beyond both the mundane and the spiritual. The mundane gives maximum sexual excitement. The spiritual is for sadhana and beyond, is too advanced to be dealt with here. In all types, the female counts japa with her left hand, the male with his right. The mantras are specific for each type. He forgets who he is, and she forgets who she is. He thinks, I am Lord Shiva in the form of Bhairav, the fearful Lord, and this is my Shakti, my Bhairavi. She thinks, this is my Lord Shiva, and I am his grand consort, his Bhairavi, the fearful goddess. If the couple is doing it for mundane purposes, they must concentrate on exciting each other. Without realizing it, she will begin to breathe through her left nostril and will direct that Shakti to him. His right nostril will be working, and that Shakti of his will be directed to her. Hypersecretion of all the glands will result, and at the moment of greatest excitation, cessation of breathing occurs for a moment. Then the male mounts and discharges his semen convulsively. Because of hypersecretion, he will now eject 3 teaspoonfuls of semen as opposed to his normal 1 teaspoonful. Because the vagina and cervix have become utterly loose and dilated, the sperm will go directly to the mouth of the cervix. The result is a child. If this is done at the right time of the month, this is the brahmacharya appropriate to the ordinary householder, because by such sex, satiation occurs for a month or more, and ojas is not wasted by frequent orgasms. The spiritual Shivalata Mudra is quite different. The Shiva must control his Shakti very carefully to ensure that she does not become sexually excited. The couple should be able to sit together for at least 3 hours without the least excitation, no twitching or oozing. The girl must understand that she will not get an ordinary orgasm this way. If she waits patiently, she will eventually get a super orgasm which will make her forget sex forever. If this mudra is done properly, she will go into bhav samadhi. Her emotions will crescendo until her mind becomes totally one pointed, directed towards Shiva, and she will partly forget her worldly existence for a while. Even Mahabhav Samadhi, which I call emotional highlights, is possible. Total immersion in Shiva, but with retained awareness of the bliss. Wonderful. The concentration must be intense and the self identification with Bhairav and Bhairavi perfect. Usually, the couple should have already enjoyed plenty of sex together, should have experimented with sex as much as they have desired, so that they can drop it for several months and work for something beyond ordinary sex. Once a couple gets initiated into this practice, they develop such a liking for it that they count the hours until they can practice it again. They can think of nothing else except performing it. This is good. Their minds are effectively disengaged from mundane things by this sadhana, and their urge for togetherness is fully satisfied. In the beginning, the woman must be willing to wait. If she is patient and works hard, her experience will affect her more strongly than hundreds of orgasms all at once. She will be forever satiated. The beauty is the wonderful play of the two partners. At one point, the male will feel such overwhelming love for his Shakti that he thinks, I must give her everything. Then Shakti becomes indignant. I am your Shakti. How can you give me anything? You are useless without me. You could not even exist. Then Shiva smiles and says, oh, is that so? From where did you originate it if not from me? The intoxication of this play cannot be described. You simply have to experience it yourself to know what it is. The play can only begin when the true personalities of the man and woman surface. Where do you find nowadays a man who is as strong as a tree, as solid as a rock of Gibraltar, firm enough to support his partner without a single lapse? And where do you find a woman who is sure enough of herself to surrender totally to her partner, relying totally on him for support, like a creeper does on a tree? This is why people find sex so unsatisfactory today, and why they go in for dolls and dildos instead. It is no wonder that today's people are maladjusted sexually. They will get a glimpse of what real sex can be only if they study and practice this technique. Otherwise, they will continue to grope about, making a mess of things, copulating without satisfaction, becoming more and more neurotic. Once the first posture is perfected, the couple moves on to the second posture, face to face, the female on the male's lap, the penis near, but not in the vagina. Being face to face, there is no holding of penis or breast. Once they can sit this way for 3 hours without the least excitation, there are three other stages. In the final stage, there is full penetration of the vagina by the erect penis with full control. Not a twitch, not a rumble. Only when this is perfected can they move on to Vajroli. The examination of a student who might like to learn Vajroli involves making two girls sit on the boy, one on each thigh, for 3 hours. When the boy can do that, he has achieved a little. I know that many of the people who read this are immediately going to jump up, rush out of the door, grab a partner, sit down, and try it out. I don't mind if they do. They will learn soon enough that without adequate prior preparations, it is impossible to succeed at Lata Mudra. You will simply get aroused, and even if you succeed in avoiding orgasm, you will still ooze. Until you reach the state where you can self identify with Shiva or with Bhairavi, depending on your gender, for a full 3 hours at a time, you will be unable to succeed at this because it is not your personality which will be achieving it. It is the personality of Shiva or Shakti which you have invoked and projected into yourself which will succeed at it. Which means that without a guru to show you the way, you can try this for 100 years and you will still be unable to perfect it. It is good to know about it though. Once you learn about it, you may become truly interested in it and not merely curious about it. Once you have a genuine desire to learn it, nature will see that a teacher comes your way. Nature is never cruel. She always gives you what you want, provided you want it badly enough. Until you do locate a teacher, there are things that you can do to prepare yourself if you're willing to work at them sincerely. First, you must utterly efface from your consciousness the idea that you and your partner are lovers or husband and wife. You must treat each other as mother and son. Freud was so obsessed by the Oedipus complex because he never realized that sex was not the only form of union which can occur between two individuals. He said that all girls experience penis envy. Actually, they experience the desire for Shiva's linga, which is the state of oneness, and when this desire is projected out into the body, it becomes penis envy in the unenlightened individual. The effect of Freud's writings have been to make whoever reads them overly conscious of the body and therefore of sex. Sex is no doubt important, but it is only secondary. Freud tried to make it primary. This is why I always say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Generations have now grown up studying Freud, learning wrong or imperfect knowledge because of his errors, and convincing themselves that there is nothing to human interaction except sex. This is why most Americans think they are satisfied with sex alone. Sensual love is all their parents learn. They never develop true, deep maternal love. And since only a pervert could have sex with his or her child, that parents end up loving the child very little. Such parents just don't know how to love their children, since they only know sexual love. American children grow up without any paternal love and become so love starved that they will take any affection they can get. Only a few are choosy. The rest just can't help themselves. If you look at a voluptuous woman or a handsome man and see only the skeleton beneath the flesh, many benefits will accrue to you. You will communicate with a deeper layer of the individual, one closer to the center than the superficial flesh and skin, which is that individual's Maya. Loving Maya always leads to misery. Loving the skeleton at least enables you to project your love onto a form that will continue to exist even after death. It is certainly not the ultimate, but it is an improvement. A male should look at every woman, especially his partner, and see Ma within her. A female should see all men and boys, and especially her partner, as her sons. This reduces the danger of falling into sex. It teaches the couple something of parental love, and it leads to fidelity in the relationship. Another thing, all desire for personal enjoyment or self gratification has to be effaced from the mind. If you have even the slightest intention to take or gain something from your partner, that tiny desire can snowball when your nervous system is under full load, and an avalanche of energy can result, ending in sex. You must forget how to take and learn only how to give. Does any real mother ever ask for anything from her child? No, nothing, not even love. And a child never need ask anything from a good mother because she will provide it without the child's asking, which allows the child to give his or her love freely. Shiva is known as the great giver. He has given up everything and sits alone in the smashan, waiting for someone to love him. You have to become like Shiva, sitting alone in the smashan of the world, if you ever hope to achieve the sadhana. These are just preliminaries, of course, but they are essential preliminaries and worth working hard on if you want to obtain the benefits of this sadhana. Good celibacy, fidelity to one partner because of longing, not legalities, the presence of Shiva and Shakti in your bodies as avishkara, and eventual samadhi of intense emotion.
So the consciousness with which you perform the act becomes extremely important in these cases.
Amrit. One of the benefits of perfect brahmacharya is Amrit. Amrit, which literally means undying, is a secretion of the pineal gland. It is the true fountain of youth because through Amrit you can preserve your youth almost permanently. There are three important rasas, juices in the world: Amra or Kamaras, which is mango juice, Charmaras, which is semen, literally skin juice, and Bhakti Ras or Ram Ras, which is Amrit. Mango juice represents the epitome of nourishing food. It strengthens the body but is an aphrodisiac, making the semen move downward. Ram Ras becomes obtainable only when the semen, that means the ojas, remember, not the sticky white fluid, is made to move upward, undisturbed. Semen or ojas is the pivot between the mundane world, the world of calm, and the spiritual realm, the world of Ram. As they say, where there is calm, lust, there is no Ram, and where there is Ram, divinity, there is no calm. It might seem logical that semen would be the best diet to increase ojas, but this is not so. I did meet a 40-year-old whore in France who looked a mere 25, and she attributed it to drinking semen. There are side effects though. It makes you more prone to certain diseases, and more importantly, it makes your apan vayu move more forcefully downward, making you more and more sexually arousable. This is because semen is not ojas but merely the raw material from which ojas is produced. Those who drink semen and expect their ojas to increase will obtain only physical benefits, like the French whore did. It is not so easy to extract Shakti from Maya. Celibacy gives you access to Amrit, which must then be externalized if you want to use it to obtain physical immortality. It is not necessary that the Amrit come from your body for it to be effective on you. There are other sources you can tap. The easiest is to locate a girl who is just about to have the first menses of her life. An expert will be able to spot that moment when Amrit will be available from the corners of her eyes. She will actually thank you when you remove it because it will feel as if a tremendous weight has been removed from her body. That weight is a good part of her Shakti. By removing it, you shorten her lifespan by up to 10 years. Don't forget the law of karma. Of course, if you didn't remove it, she would probably waste it in masturbation or fornication anyway. But that doesn't exonerate you. And besides, unless you are an expert or know where to locate one, this method is of no use to you. Or you can procure an elephant. Do you know that this was the real reason kings were supposed to keep elephants? Most kings never knew. An elephant is not just for pomp and pageantry. If it is well cared for and becomes pleased with you, it, with its master, it can take Amrit from its body and present it to its master. Today, no one knows how to do this, save a few who tell no one. Even if you're married, you can become immortal through Amrit. Though during the sadhana and forever afterwards, you must observe absolute brahmacharya because Amrit is a glandular substance. When Kamagni, the fire of lust, becomes enkindled in you, it causes chemical changes which would consume this substance and nullify all the work you had done to obtain it. You will then ask, is it wise even to try to gain physical or immortality? Well, I never had that desire. I want to die out so that I can be free of all my earthly limitations. It just depends on what you want to do. There are the facts. These are the facts I am presenting to you, and you have to decide what to do with them. You can use your Amrit to create more ojas, or you can use it to obtain immortality. You can do whatever you please with it, but first you have to obtain it. And don't think it is not wonderful to be immortal. It is. Think of Changdev, the Aghori who learned that he would only be able to meet his guru after 1400 years. Now, in 1400 years, who knows what sort of incarnations you may have to take? What if you forget all about spirituality and miss your chance? So, Changdev deliberately remained alive for 1400 years and then met his guru, Muktabai, the 14-year-old sister of Sri Gyaneshwar. Yogi Chandev used a different method than Amrit, but the idea is the same. Amrit is actually being produced continually in everyone's body and continuously it drips down into the gut, where it is incinerated by the Jataragni, the fire of digestion. A yogi can trap this Amrit and prevent it from being destroyed by practicing Khechri Mudra. The Guru first tests the aspirant to determine whether or not he'll be able to succeed. If you pass this test, you then must practice Shirshasana, the headstand, for several hours daily until you perfect it. Many people today are being misled by half baked yoga teachers who tell them, do Shirshasana, it sends plenty of blood to the brain. Bull. They prescribe the headstand to everyone without considering its uses and restrictions. For example, those who indulge in sex should never practice Shirshasana lest they weaken themselves, both physically and mentally. The brain and nerves will suffer. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. The real asanas are not physical anyway, they are mental. Can you even imagine what mental Shirshasana must be like? If you can do away with the need for the physical headstand altogether. But it is not so easy. When your Shirsasana becomes firm, your guru will begin to cut your frenulum lingua with a piece of rock salt, not a blade. He cuts only a little distance each day, and the salt prevents the cut surfaces from healing together. This is very delicate. If he cuts too far, the student may never be able to speak again. This is not the modern idea of taking a scalpel and swish straight through on the first go. Oh no, there is a reason for doing it gradually. When the frenulum has been sufficiently cut and the tongue can be retracted to cover the back of the mouth, the Guru selects an auspicious day to begin Khechri Mudra. On that day, you will be told to perform Shirshasana and put your tongue completely backward into your mouth. Your Guru will warn you that whenever you feel something dripping onto your tongue, you should not swallow it, but instead come down out of the posture and let the secretion flow from your mouth into your hand. This is Amrit, which should be taken to your Guru, who will put it into a special pan and only then can you make you eat it. This secretion needs to be consumed only thrice. After that, your mind becomes steady, firm, absolutely, which will make your meditation steady. No waverings of the mind to any side. Isn't that useful? Amrit really can make you undying to the extent you follow the conditions. There are a lot of conditions, the main one being that you must never again enjoy sex, or else the Amrit will dissolve and within a short time your body will age completely. It is the same way with those amulets which some gurus implant into their disciples' arms or legs. These amulets have two important effects. You grow younger and younger as the years roll by, and you develop Vak Siddhi, which means that whatever you say comes true. When a guru gives you such an amulet to a disciple, two promises are extracted: total celibacy from then on, and complete equanimity, which is the face of severe provocation, because any curse you deliver will come true and will ruin both you and whoever you curse. In the spiritual field, if you fall down, you don't have to stay and repeat a grade like you do in school. You will have to start all over again right from nursery school, which will take a number of lifetimes. To fool about these things without knowing their gravity is terribly dangerous. Just pause for a second. Vajroli. There is another way to obtain Amrit, the practice of Vajroli. Anyone can learn Vajroli, but for householders, the prior practice of Shivalata Mudra is essential. So long as they are unable to control themselves this much, they will be unable to do Vajroli. To learn Vajroli, you must first thoroughly clean out your body, eyes, nose, mouth, stomach, and digestive tract. The upper body is cleaned by swallowing, churning, and regurgitating water. The bowel is washed by sucking water up through the anus into the colon, churning it and expelling it. The urinary passage is cleansed by sucking water through the penis into the bladder and through the ureters into the kidneys and then releasing it. This last process is called Gaj Karma because elephants Gaj suck up water with their trunks and playfully spray themselves for a bath. To be able to do this, you must know the method of controlling Apan Vayu, the body force which causes the expulsion of urine, feces, flatus, semen, menses, and fetus. I can't tell you here how you can make a pana, which naturally moves downward, go up. But consider this. If you want to urinate and you start to strain, the flow won't start. You must relax to start the stream. And in Ayurveda, you're taught that if you clench your teeth tightly whenever you urinate or defecate, then your teeth will be firmly fixed in your skull and will always be healthy. How are the teeth and pan connected? Think about it. Anyway, after you have been able to suck up water through the penis and hold a bladder full of water for 3 hours, you proceed to use milk to cool the genital organs. Then ghee, clarified butter to lubricate. Honey next. It is very sticky and hard to make flow upward. Finally, you do it with mercury, which is extremely heavy. You must use mercury which has been purified and prepared in the tantric way. Otherwise, it is a deadly poison. When you can hold a bladder full of mercury for 3 hours without spilling a drop, you have reached the level of the first qualification. A woman prepares for Vajroli in exactly the same way. She learns to suck up water, milk, and so on up to mercury with her vagina. She reaches the level of a first qualification when she can hold a vagina full of mercury for 3 hours. You must have heard of the women of the Place Pigalle in Paris who can pick up 1 franc coins from tables with their vaginas. I have seen this with my own eyes. I am told that in Laos and Vietnam, some bar girls can smoke cigarettes vaginally. So don't think that sucking mercury into the vagina is impossible. It's not, it's just hard work. Mercury is the most important element in Tantra. It has hundreds of uses, but in this context, we should know that it is the best preservative available. Half a handful of it is sufficient to preserve an entire silo of grain for a very long time. No insects or rodents dare venture near it. No fungus or mold can grow there. This was a common practice in ancient India. When mercury is sucked up into the genitourinary tract, Its main effect are on the prostate in man and on various glands, included Bartholin's glands in women. It causes these glands to contract. A well contracted prostate will not enlarge in old age. Also, when these glands are contracted, their secretions will not flow so easily. So, right there, there is some control over the sexual response. The outstanding characteristic of prostatic fluid is that it propagates life. We know this because sperm needs to stay alive. The fluid from a female's glands is called Stri Shukra, female semen, in Ayurveda, meaning that it should be preserved by a woman as carefully as a man preserves his semen. A woman who practices vajoli on a man who practices vajoli on a woman sucks up with this penis the secretions which ooze out as she gets excited. These oozings further contract the prostate. In fact, they cause to be produced a new type of cell which mediates prostate function. The woman used for this purpose loses 10 years of her lifespan, though, since such a great amount of her Shakti is removed. Of course, a woman who knows Vajoli can milk an unsuspecting man of his semen with her suction. She can make him eject over and over again until there is nothing left to eject, which will sap him of all his ojas. Her glands will be well benefited by this at his expense. If you want to practice this technique, you need a body which is in good shape. For the first 23 years of my life, I didn't know what salt was, and I had never experienced sex. Westerners eat salt excessively all their lives, and they are introduced to the opposite sex very early. Western men who waste their semen even once every 3 days will suffer for it. Their resistance will drop and their nerves will be affected. This makes knowledge of a Vajoli all the more important. A man who knows real Vajoli should be able to satisfy dozens of females in a single night, each female having at least 10 orgasms without letting even a drop of prostate fluid fall. And once he is finished, he should be able to calmly wash his hands and smoke a cigarette. Don't forget, though, that the law of karma is very clear. You can get yourself into trouble even if you know Vajoli. I know it happened to me. I had been going along merrily performing a little Vajoli on so many girls. A little only, because if I had done the full thing, they would have been bleeding and in bed for months, because they knew nothing of the technique. Besides, it would have shortened their lives, and I wanted to avoid that karma. One day, I met a very powerful being, a Mahapurush actually, who said to me, "So you've become a beef eater." I didn't like the way he sneered that and got wild. I have never even eaten even a mouthful of beef in my entire life. How dare you call me a beef eater? He said, when you do vajoli with beef eating girls, isn't that the same thing as eating it yourself? I had to pull my ears at that one. He was right. When you suck up vaginal secretions, you take an immense amount of Shakti, and the body Shakti is composed of the essence of food consumed. I had been eating beef that way. The Mahapurush made me purify myself. My God, it was rough. After that, I paid more attention to my partners and finally quit altogether. The law of karma is really rough. I've made mistakes, no doubt. I'm not infallible, as many see the Pope. But I've always confessed to my mistakes, and nature has always pardoned me. I cannot describe to you the awesome magnanimity of nature. It is amazing. Control is all in the mind. Physical control, like pinching the penis at the moment of orgasm, is most crude. There are other methods if you prepare mercury in a certain way and fill your navel with it. You can copulate for days on end and never spill even one drop of prostrate fluid. But this is also satisfactory because it is external method. Once you lose your mercury, you are through. Mental control is both more refined and more efficient. Now, the applications of a jolly. Modern scientists claim that only the head of the spermatozoon yields the progeny, but actually, millions of beings can be produced from each of the millions of spermatozoa present in each drop of semen. This is how Shukracharya, the guru of the Asuras, demons, could resuscitate all the Asura troops killed in the wars with the gods. That is why he was called Shukracharya, semen teacher. At the other end of the pole from the Asuras are the rishis, who believed in family planning. A rishi would have one child in 12 years, or even less frequently, but he would enjoy vigorous intercourse with his wife regularly, thanks to a jolly. Once he and his wife did decide to have a child, they would first decide on its sex and then on its type, grammarian, musician, mathematician, saint, or whatever. They would then construct a good horoscope for the proposed child to be born under select under selecting planetary positions according to the type of child desired. Some of this information as to what sort of child will be conceived when you copulate on a certain lunar day is a certain position has been preserved on the walls of our temples, such as the Sun Temple at Konark in Orissa. The rishis knew much more than this, though. They knew all about the subtle or ethereal planets which exist along with the gross planets we can see. When the time came for the rishi and his maid to perform coitus, they would first perform all 84 of the postures designed especially for intercourse, using Vajroli. Then, at the precise moment of the lunar day and with the correct lunar asterism, predominating to maximize the child's attributes, the rishi would discharge his semen, which would go directly to the cervix, no waiting in the vagina. The rishi would be precise to the last second because 4 minutes of time means a difference of 1 degree of celestial arc. The couple would have the best of all factors proper mood, hypersecretion, full excitement, precise moment. The ecstasy would be so great that it would permeate the zygote, thus conceived, and would produce optimal samskaras. A rishi can control his own samskaras, of course, and can juggle them to create new genes if he so desires. Let Western scientists discover the 24th chromosome, and when they may understand a little more of the mystery of life. A little. You see, by this method of knowing what the child will become even before it is conceived, you know exactly what to do with the child as he or she grows up. Isn't this a better way than coupling haphazardly like animals and producing brats? This is why I say the rishis knew about creation and today's human beings know only about procreation. Rishis have upward moving semen, of course, and do not need to copulate to have children. Originally, they did it by force of will alone. A rishi would look at a woman with such intense affection that she would become pregnant. Later, it was done in other ways, including mantras. Rishis can also create thousands of beings just by wiping the sweat off their foreheads. As humans forgot these ways, the business of having children became degraded, and humans began to breed like animals do, using coitus. Another reason a man should know Vajroli is that women are said to be 9 times more passionate than men. Only when his wife is satiated has a man fulfilled his duty to her. He must ask her 10 times or even more, "Are you finished? Have you had enough?" But a man's ego is hurt to ask because he knows his wife may not find him satisfactory. So 99.99% of men never ask, and their wives are never satisfied fully. Moreover, most men have no idea of female anatomy. Women's orgasms can come in waves, while a man's is only one. A man has to last as long as he can after penetration before ejaculation. The immature man goes off quickly, and the man with a little knowledge lasts a few minutes at most. This is insufficient to satisfy the female, and since almost all people are interested only in physical sex, there is misery. Consider the Sanskrit proverb, Bhogena bhokta bhogam iva bhogata. This means that the enjoyment of pleasure lies not in the act of enjoyment, but in the fact of enjoyment. Human beings have become very selfish. They want to enjoy their own orgasms and can't be bothered about their partners. This attitude will never satisfy you, though. You can only get true satisfaction from sex when you are most interested in your partner's satisfaction than in your own, because only then will your partners reciprocate fully, freely, and enthusiastically and do his or her best to satisfy you. That joy of having another being attempt to satisfy you is far greater than the pleasure of the orgasm itself. This is the meaning of that proverb. The real bliss of sex occurs when the male is able to steer his mate into a condition of absolute sexual frenzy. In order to do this, the male must know each erotic center in his partner's body, and he must know the relationship between the erotic centers and the moon. The moon plays a very important role in each woman's life. Menstruation is derived from a word meaning moon, since it occurs at intervals of one lunar month. In the past, women's menstrual cycles were much more regular than they are now. Everything was more natural. A different erotic center in the female body is awakened on each lunar day. If the male concentrates his passion on that center, the female's passion will ignite very quickly, and the resulting orgasms will be far more intense. Finger action should be sufficient to cause a female to have 10 oozings. If you know which center is proper for which lunar day, the male should cooperate with the female's body so that there is no need to struggle to arouse her. This way, the woman arousal happens automatically. It should be intuitive, yes, but intuition alone is insufficient. Knowledge of the woman's body is also required. Should we stop here?
Continue. Just finish now.
Do you know how many erotic centers are present in the buttocks alone? Here I'll give you a practical demonstration on this handy teenage girl. Now when I press here, do you see the result? And that is just one finger. Look, I'll add one more finger. You see, she can't stand it. She has to break away because the excitement is too much. If I continue, she will start to ooze. And if I do it with concentration, she should have 100 oozings with finger pressure alone. All because I am pressing the center which is more active today. Shiva plays Shakti like an instrument. Humans should follow his head. The erotic centers are the keys of the instrument. The male must know which key to press and when. Does the instrument ever complain about being controlled by the musician and demand to be allowed to play him occasionally? No, it's absurd. But this does not devalue Shakti in any way. Without an instrument or a voice, no musician can make music. Both are essential. Neither can do without the other. It just so happens that the instrument must be controlled and the musician must control. This is nature's way. If you can think of any other way to please, let me know about it. I will worship your lotus feet as my guru for teaching me something new. And remember, control is only possible only when you learn how to give and forget how to take. Today's men not only do not know how to satiate a woman sexually, they are not interested in doing so. They only want to emit their teaspoonful or two of semen and relax. This is why men can no longer control women. When someone accepts a gift from you, you have successfully inserted an element of control into your relationship with that individual. Your choice of gift and time of giving can influence events. To take, you must come under someone else's influence to create the opportunity for your taking to occur. This is why Shiva is the great giver. He never takes anything from anyone. So he is eternally free from the influence of Maya. Can a musician take music from his instrument? No. He must give his experience, his expertise to the instrument, and then a musician really has only a foggy idea of how instruments make music, unless he is only an artisan and not an artist. A real musician becomes so engrossed by his music that he is amazed when it finally comes forth from within him. The musician gives his all to the instrument, and inspired by this gift, the instrument gives it all to the musician. It is a mutual thing. Isn't it wonderful? The human body is much better instrument than any musical instrument which has ever been created because you can play it in so many ways. All parts of the body have erotic significance, especially the earlobes, navel, buttocks, and lips. In the old days, there was no such thing as kissing, which only began in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the mouth has assumed great importance because we get much of our prana through food, and we know how to communicate only in oral speech. Originally, people smelled one another. Children would come in to their elders who would embrace them by smelling their heads. Lovers would embrace each other and take in each other's body odors. Smell pertains to the earth element, the most gross physical element. Sniffing inflames the passions of those who want to enjoy coitus. All the senses are important: taste for kissing, touch for caressing, hearing, verbal and non verbal. Sight is the most important because it permits a direct telepathic communication between the two. They can go beyond words and feelings. The senses provide different instruments to the conductor or composer to create the symphony. The asanas are musical tunes and phrases. Our texts on sex describe 84 important positions for copulation. Each position affects a different group of erotic centers, like a different pattern of musical notes, and each position therefore has a unique orgasmic effect. An expert will perform all 84 postures in 3 hours with the use of a jolly to inflame his or her partner so thoroughly that no sex desire will arise again for months. There is no need. He or she is too full.
Okay, you can stop here.